Ask the Superintendent returns for Season 2. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jack Aylward, a student at Parker Middle School. We'll go on location in McCarthy where Superintendent Lang talks to students as well as fields some questions including parking, buses, special needs, and heat. Lauren Grout, who is a student at Byam Elementary, and Suzanne Curry, who has a CHS student, both had questions about the heat. Mr. Grout asked, with heat season approaching, what, if anything, has been done proactively to test and monitor the heat systems? Ms. Curry experienced an overheated room at the high school parent night and is concerned that the temperature extremes are not healthy or productive.
Thank you very much for that question regarding the heat, and this actually did get a lot of attention in the district last year. We had some concerns at different schools about heating levels, some underheating, some overheating. The town actually, if you recall last spring, the town manager brought in a warrant article forward to be able to provide some additional funding to, over the course of this past summer and early fall, go in and do some evaluation of our heating systems. There was a lot of work that was actually done to balance our systems, to adjust some of the fan speeds in individual classrooms so that the heating systems themselves are operating the way that they were intended to based on the manufacturer's installation. So a lot of work did actually happen over the course of this summer and early fall. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where we won't be able to really gauge the benefit of the work until we get into the heating season. We're still a week or two away from the temperatures really falling and being able to gauge how effective the work that occurred this past summer is in the schools. But it is something that we're obviously watching very closely. As an admin group, we revamped the protocol for reporting heat concerns, whether it's overheating or underheating, to try to standardize that within the buildings to get all of our staff reporting the information the same way, so that if there is a concern, it can be very quickly relayed to the Department of Public Works, and then it can be worked on by their staff. So it is something that we take very seriously. Again, we did have a lot of questions and concerns last year. The town stepped up and actually allocated some additional resources and money to be able to fix some of the systems and balance the system. So we're hoping for a much better fall and winter this year, and we'll certainly know within the next coming weeks as the weather shifts. But it is absolutely on our radar, and it's something we're watching, and we'll continue to improve so that individual staff and students feel satisfied within their classrooms with the climate level. So thank you very much for that question.
Hi, I'm Divya Sambasivan, and I'm a 7th grader at Parker Middle School. Thanks for staying tuned to hear Superintendent Lang answer a few more questions. Kate Henderson, with 2 children at Center Elementary, asks, how and when will the lack of adequate parking be addressed at Center School? Center parents were told that parking would be addressed with the pod construction. What is the plan for creating additional parking?
Hi Divya, thank you for that question. And parking has been on the minds of a lot of parents at both Center School and Harrington School in the district. And I'm happy to report that we actually do have plans in the works to add some additional parking at both Center and Harrington Elementary School. Those plans will go forward as part of our capital planning for fiscal 19, which is underway right now. Hopefully will be recommended to the town meeting in April. And if all goes well and funding is appropriated, we would look to have some new parking added to Center Elementary School and Harrington Elementary School, both as kind of a redo of the front entrances of both schools over next summer to be in place for the fall of 2018 when the kids return from school.
And now we'll go to Elizabeth Silva on location at McCarthy.
Welcome to Ask the Superintendent. My name is Elizabeth Silva, and I am here with Dr. Lang, Ty, who is a 7th grader at McCarthy Middle School, and Mia, who is an 8th grader at McCarthy Middle School. And both of these students have some questions for Dr. Lang. Ty, would you like to go first?
All right. My question for Dr. Lang is, what are the homework guidelines for Chelmsford Middle School with regard to how much homework we should be getting each night?
Are you getting a lot of homework, Ty?
Yes, I am.
And how long does it take you on average to get your homework
Average
done?
is 2 hours and about 3 hours.
Between 2 and 3 hours
Yes.
a night?
Yeah.
Okay. typical guideline, I would say, for middle school would be somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes times the grade level that you're in. So if you're an 8th grader and you multiply 8 times 10, you're looking at about 80 minutes. So somewhere between, an hour and, maybe an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours would be a comparable time for homework. Oftentimes what happens is if you might have some regular homework from one of your teachers, you might also then have to prepare a study for a test. So it's going to fall somewhere in that time frame. One of the things that is difficult as you go from elementary school to middle school to high school is as you get more teachers, instead of just having in the elementary schools, there's only one teacher that's working with you. When you come to middle school, you have 2 teachers in 5th and 6th grade. So those 2 teachers often know what the other is assigning for homework, and they try to manage that. It gets a little more difficult when you get to 7th grade, 8th grade, and then the high school, because the teachers are all kind of very individual, and it's a little bit more difficult sometimes to coordinate homework. But a general rule of thumb is you're going to want to multiply whatever grade you're in by about 10 minutes, and that would be the minimum you'd probably be doing each night, up to a maximum of about 15 minutes per grade level. So if you're in the hour and 15 to 2 hour time frame for yourself in the 8th grade, that's a pretty good a good amount of homework to be doing. Yeah. And then again, there might be some nights where there's less. There might be some nights where you have to do a little bit more studying because you've got a test coming up. But it sounds like you're in the ballpark.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. All right. Mia?
So I was curious that many nearby towns either have or are building new high schools. Does Chelmsford have any future plans to build a new high school?
We're actually working on that. So there are a lot of towns in the area that have recently either built or are building new high schools. We were at Drake at High School last spring for the Knowledge Bowl. It was the first time our middle schools competed in the Regional Knowledge Bowl, and they had a beautiful new high school that we were in for that event. Lowell High School is in the middle of trying to build a new high school project. Billerica has actually broken ground, and they're building a new high school. So there is a lot of construction going on in the area. We last year submitted an application to the state because it's very expensive to build a new high school or any kind of school. So we submitted an application to the state to have the state come and help us be able to fund a new school building project. And it might be a high school project, it may be a middle school project, it could be a combination project. You have to get on the list with the state to be able to get reimbursement for your project. So in Chelmsford, if we were going to spend money on a new high school, let's just say it cost $100 million, we as a town would be responsible for paying about half of that, and then the state would kick in the other half of the funding. So we'd be responsible for $50 million, the state would then reimburse us $50 million, and it would be a split. So we've submitted our application to the state last spring. We'll hope to hear sometime this fall or early winter if they're going to accept us into the funding consideration round. And then if that's the case, then we'll start working a little bit closer with the state about building a new school. Anytime you build a new school, it probably from this point would take anywhere from 5 to 7 years before you'd actually have a new school built and be able to open. So it is something that we have to plan for the long term because you might want a new school tomorrow, but it's going to take you that long to actually get the school funded and approved and constructed. So it takes some time, but it is in the works. That was part of our long-term facility plan that we worked on last year.
Seems like you have experience in this, in building. Have you built other schools or buildings before?
Yeah, thank you. I actually, I have. In Chelmsford, as you recall, maybe this summer as you might have been driving around, we received some funding to build new modular classrooms at our elementary schools in town. So each of our elementary schools has new modular buildings that came out really nice. The 4th grade students at each of the elementary schools are utilizing them now. In my previous district, I worked in Lowell for about 20 years before I came to Chelmsford. We built several schools, so I have experience building brand new elementary schools and brand new middle schools. I left right as the district was going to start to work on building a new high school, so I didn't build a new high school yet. Hopefully that'll happen sometime while I'm here in Chelmsford.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
So when was the high school that we have now? When was that built? What year?
In the early 70s. I want to say 72, 73, sometime in the early 70s. That's our newest school actually in Chelmsford, is the high school.
Well, it stayed up all of these years. That's good, right?
It certainly does. It's,
Yeah.
it's a very nice building. I think even if we were to build a new high school in town, we would repurpose or reuse the existing high school. So it wouldn't be, we would knock it down. We might consider moving some of the middle schools into the high school building because it is our newest building. but it's certainly a good facility. And some of our other elementary schools and middle schools are a lot older than the current high school. So it's not that the building isn't needed, it would just be repurposed to help out a different grade level.
Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to Ask the Superintendent, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Tyler, a Chelmsford High School student, hears other students make racist comments to his classmates based on the color of their skin or ethnic background. He wants to know if the district will address this so that minorities feel safe in school.
Tyler, thank you for that question. We want all students in the Chelmsford Public Schools to feel very safe and supported in their schooling at the elementary, middle, and high school level. I think anytime a student in the district has any concern about something that is said or an action, it's really important that they feel comfortable bringing those concerns to a trusted adult, and as soon as it happens, so that it can be actually investigated and looked into and dealt with in current time. So if you're ever in a situation where someone either says something to you or does something that you don't feel comfortable with, or you feel crosses some type of a line, what we really recommend doing is bringing that to the immediate attention of an adult. Do it as quickly as you can in relation to when the incident occurred, so that the adult in the district, one of our teachers or one of our administrators, we have protocols that we'll actually follow and procedures that we'll follow to look into any concerns like that that are given to us. But oftentimes it's much better when we're doing our research to figure out as quickly as we can what happened, to try to get to the bottom of things, to allow the investigation to occur, to allow for the different parties to actually be able to speak. The quicker it's brought to the administration's attention, the better in actually trying to find a resolution. So we certainly want all of our students to feel safe and comfortable and supported in our schools. And we would just recommend, if you ever do have an instance where you don't feel safe or comfortable, to immediately bring that to the attention of an adult so that they can step in and help to resolve the situation.
The parent of a second grade student at Harrington is impressed with the staff and wonders what the district will focus on to improve on over the next 1 to 3 years, and how can we as parents help?
Thank you very much for that question, and I will have to say that the staff at Harrington School does a great job, as does the other staff in the district. I'm very impressed with both the teaching staff and the support staff, the administrative staff in our buildings. There's a lot of good things going on in the district that I'm very proud of, and would not be capable of being done without a very dedicated and supportive staff. So I want to take this opportunity to thank them. As a district, as a parent, one of the things that you can look at over the next number of years, we recently are working to finish a strategic plan which is going to guide our work through 2020. It primarily has 3 focus areas or 3 goals. The first goal relates to academics in the district and where we'd like to see each of the different subject areas grow over the next 3 years. Second goal really deals with student social emotional learning and being able to support students in the classroom, again, to feel safe and feel able to really learn at their best. And then the third goal for our work is to really make sure that our district resources are aligned, both financially and operationally, to support the first 2 goals. I'd like to really do a couple of things very well in the district, and having an academic and a social emotional focus allows us to work on that. As an example, because I know this question came from Harrington, one of the things that you'll be seeing at the elementary level academically is a real focus on the new next generation science standards. And we're rolling out some very exciting new science kits at the elementary school level. And so you'll be seeing academically that coming to light over the course of this year. As far as parent involvement goes, we'd really like our parents to be very involved. You'll find that each of our schools sends out regular communications to families, emails and ConnectEd telephone calls. I really encourage you to stay up on those and learn about what's happening in the schools. Always come forward if you have any questions about either academic content or extracurricular activities or before and after school programs. Bring them to the teacher's attention, to the administrator's attention, and really stay involved in your schools. PTOs are a great resource, so I would obviously recommend, if you're not going to be active on a PTO board, even go to PTO meetings, take a look at newsletters, websites. Individual PTOs have Facebook pages, and really stay current with activities that are occurring at your particular school. The other thing that we like quite often is to speak with your individual students' classroom teachers and see if there are ways that you could help them. Oftentimes parents can volunteer time, they can come into the classroom and help work on an activity. We have a lot of field trips and different extracurricular activities that take place in our schools, and parents are often able to participate in those. So have that communication with the classroom teacher and figure out how you can be supportive of either individual initiatives within their classroom or the building, or just generally be able to volunteer and help out when needed. But thank you very much for that question. I am very excited about the years to come in Chelmsford and our new strategic plan that's being launched this fall.
Bus drivers are in positions of authority as they drive our children to and from school. We have a question from Michelle Lane Bamford, who has a student in elementary school. She is concerned that the bus driver doesn't know the route and is not driving safely.
Thank you, Divya, for bringing forward that concern regarding student transportation. And this is a topic that actually comes up at the beginning of every school year as we're getting all of our bus routes up and started for the school year. A couple of steps that the school department has taken to try to regulate and work on transportation this year. For the first time in a long time, we actually have hired a dedicated transportation coordinator to field concerns and complaints and actually work on streamlining some of the bus routes in the district. So a new individual, Peter Berkalis, came on board late last spring, early summer, and is fulfilling the role of transportation coordinator for us. One of the other issues in the years past, the transportation routes had always been designed by the transportation company themselves. We've taken over control of the transportation routes and the scheduling of the routes. So Peter is actually working with the transportation company on that. And we're going to try to hopefully find some efficiencies within the routing where we're going to be administering the routes themselves. We're trying to improve on customer service as far as being able to work with families around bus stops or changes to bus routes that are required over the course of the year. The school district itself, we actually now own the software that is doing the routing, so we're a little bit more intimately involved with that. And again, Peter is our point of contact if anyone in the district has any concerns. We have a very good relationship with both of our transportation companies that we use for our regular education and special education bus routes and bus monitors. So what we always ask is if anyone does have an individual issue that's regularly recurring, on any given day a bus might be a few minutes late or a few minutes early. But if someone is having a consistent problem with a bus or a bus driver or a route, to please let us know and let Peter know so that he can look into that and try to make a correction for you. There's a few different ways of contacting Peter. If you go to the Chelmsford Public Schools website, there's a link for transportation, and Peter's contact information is there. As well, if you go to the main Chelmsford Public Schools website, there's a little bus icon. It's a yellow bus icon, and if you click on that, you can actually fill out a form that just provides very limited information, your name, your child's name, school, bus stop, and that information, once you fill out that form, is then transmitted to Peter, the transportation coordinator, and the transportation company also sees that information at the same time. So that can be a question, a complaint, a concern, but that's a very expedient way of getting all of the people who need to be in the know to know what type of issue you're dealing with so that it can be rectified. But we take student transportation very seriously. Obviously, the safety of students is one of our top priorities as a district. We work with the transportation companies to maintain that. If there are concerns from time to time, please bring them to our attention. And again, the quickest and easiest way of doing so is by putting in filling out a form on our district website so that information gets to us as quick as possible. You're obviously also welcome to call Peter and talk one-on-one if you're having specific issues. But thank you very much for bringing that to our attention as well.
A parent with students in both middle and high school wonders, why does it take so long to get MCAS scores back? Waiting 6 months to know the results of the tests required for graduation is too long.
Thank you, Divya. And this has been a question that's been on a lot of people's minds. We've all been waiting for the MCAS scores to come in since earlier this fall. As you know, the state last spring switched to a new version of the MCAS test, which had been in existence for almost 20 years. So this past spring was the first time that we actually participated in the new test. And like any new thing, sometimes the first time doing it, it takes a little bit longer to get results. Some of our students participated last spring taking an electronic version of the test. Some students took a paper pencil version of the test, and this occurred in all districts across the state. state. The states then had to take in all the information, and it's the first time that they were actually seeing the data and being able to report it back out to districts. So it probably did take about a month, maybe even 6 weeks longer than it normally would, to have districts receive data. So as a district, we just received our data a couple of weeks ago, and individual teachers and parents will be receiving their student-specific data next week, which is the first week in November, depending on when this show airs. But around the first week in November, you'll actually be receiving your data. And our hope is that now that we'll be going into the second year of this particular test, that we as a district will receive the data a little bit earlier next year, and we'll be able to communicate that to parents earlier in October. Our goal would be right as quickly as we can at the beginning of a school year to be able to get that data out. As a district, we hold data meetings with our staff to be able to identify how our students performed, if there are any gaps in any of the assessments that would tell us that we need to focus or concentrate on a different standard or topic for the children. So we want to get that data as quickly as we possibly can as well. And again, if all goes well, it will come earlier next year, and our goal would be to get that to staff and families by the end of September, so that we go into the fall really knowing what the data says, how we need to assess our own or modify our own instruction to really have the children receive the best benefit that they can from the test results that were given from the state.
Laura Miller with students in elementary and CHIPS is concerned that the special needs population is being overlooked as she can't find CHIPS on the district website. She also wants to know what you can do to support parent and caregiver awareness of special needs services and to promote CPAC.
Thank you very much for bringing Laura's question forward. And this is something we can certainly look into. I know our individual schools are listed on the Chelmsford Public Schools website. Sometimes not all of our individual programs have their own heading on the website. But to be able to have ease of access, if not only for this particular program, CHIPS, but if anyone has other programs or different elements of the website that they find either difficult to navigate or think would be helpful to parents as they're trying to find out information about schools or programs, please bring that to our attention and we can look into that for you. I'll certainly look into this CHIPS inquiry and see if there's a way to spotlight that on the website so it's a little bit easier for people to be able to see and access. The CHIPS program, which is housed over in the Westland School with our community education program, is a really critical program to the district, and it's an excellently run program. People really appreciate the services and the supports that are provided to families in the CHIPS program. So it's certainly it's a highlight of our district that I'm very proud to say that we operate. There has been a concerted effort and focus on a lot of our special education programming in the district, and I really see that only expanding in the years to come. So it's a population that we certainly work very closely with. One of the other comments or one of the other questions that comes up quite a bit is you may have heard that the CPAC, or the Special Education Parent Advisory Group, is starting to reform in Chelmsford. And each district is required in the state to actually have a CPAC, or a Special Education PAC. Chelmsford was very active for a lot of years through the 90s and early 2000s, and then kind of went dormant. There wasn't a lot of interest or participation in CPAC. But I'd say over the last year and a half or 2 years, there's been a revival of parents that have been interested in reestablishing the CPAC. I've actually gone to a couple of meetings this past fall, just as the group starts to work together and kind of reformat itself. Special education PACs really, if they work well, work very closely with the school department, school district staff, the school committees to review existing programming that takes place in the district that targets special education students and their needs. It's a group that can help you not only evaluate your current offerings, but take a look at what additional offerings might be necessary and be well serve the existing populations that we have. So I'm very excited that the CPAC is beginning to reform in Chelmsford. It's something that we look to work with the parents on, and obviously we'll be advertising and publicizing their events on our website. So that we can get the word out about the different programming that is available in the district, the different groups that are available to help support parents with students with special needs. It is a real focus of ours, and it's a focus that will continue in the years to come.
Mike, a parent of a high schooler, appreciated last year's outreach programs and asked, is there plans for additional coffees or roundtables to allow parents to meet you and school principals?
Hi, Divya. Thank you. Yes, last year we actually had a very good turnout. Myself and Linda Hirsch, the Assistant Superintendent, hosted a number of forums to be able to have parents come and talk to us about any issues or concerns or questions that they had about the Chelmsford Public Schools. We termed them community coffees. Some of them occurred in the morning before the school day when you'd be dropping off your child for school. We held a couple of evening events last year as well to try to make it accommodating for people's schedules if a nighttime event was easier for them. But it's certainly something we plan on continuing this year. A couple of twists that we're also considering this year is, in addition to those kind of community coffees, which would be hosted at different venues around town, just to provide people an opportunity to come and talk to us about really any educational questions or concerns that they may have. We're also thinking about hosting at least one per school, a morning where myself and some of the central office staff would actually be at each individual school to be able to have parents drop off their children for school that day, but be able to come in and actually have a school-specific meeting. So if someone happened to go to, let's say it was South Row Elementary School, and that was the day we were hosting our coffee at South Row, they could come in and talk to us about any South Row issue that they may have or questions or concerns about that particular building as a way to just be really seen to be accessible to the parents and the community members. So that's a twist that we're going to have as well. Last year went very well. I attended several of the PTO meetings in the schools. And I'm really open upon invitation. So if different community groups or organizations would like to have either myself or any members of the admin staff at central office or individual school principals or administrative staff attend any events to be able to talk about the good work that's happening in the Chelmsford Public Schools, we're certainly happy to do that. Please reach out and let us know where and when, and if we're available, we'll try to make that event. But the community connections and the community coffees is something that we're going to be continuing this year. Look to have some announcements out right after the Thanksgiving holiday about those. And again, this year, new twist, we will be having at least an event at each of our schools to provide parents an opportunity to come and talk to us as they're dropping off their children for school. So thank you very much for that question, and we're looking forward to continuing to have that dialogue with parents and community members about the Chelmsford schools and how we can be responsive to their needs.
Thank you for watching Ask the Superintendent. We hope you enjoyed the show and encourage you to send in questions you may have. If you sent in a question and did not see it here, please tune in to the next episode. If you would like to submit a question, please click on the Ask the Superintendent button on the Chelmsford Schools website.